It is my pleasure to welcome everyone to the first webinar of our two-day virtual event, Next in Finance, Innovation through Automation. Appreciate your joining us for the very first webinar of our event, the business-wide benefits of financial automation. This webinar and the 6 webinars that comprise our two-day event are brought to you by BILL, a leading financial operations platform for small and mid-sized businesses, or SMBs. As a champion of SMBs, we are automating the future of finance so businesses can thrive. And I would note that, and this is something to keep in mind as well as we share some additional information about BILL, our integrated platform helps businesses to more efficiently control their payables, receivables, and spend and expense management. Hundreds of thousands of businesses rely on BILL's proprietary member network of millions to pay or get paid faster. Headquartered in San Jose, California, BILL is a trusted partner of leading U.S. financial institutions, accounting firms, and accounting software providers. And we invite you to visit bill.com for more information after this webinar and after any other webinars you attend today. I'm Joe Fleischer. It is my pleasure to serve as your MC. Now, at this stage, before we actually pose the first of our polling questions, what I would like to do is turn the floor over to our moderator, Anna Bolerjack, and our distinguished guests, Jim, Tucker, and Monique. I want to give everybody a moment to introduce yourselves. Then I'll administer our first poll, and then I'm looking forward to launching into our discussion.
Yes, hello everyone. So happy to be here with you this afternoon. My name is Anna Bolerjack. I am the Senior Manager of Customer Community here at BILL, where I serve as an advocate for all of our incredible BILL customers. Jim, over to you.
Hi, my name is Jim Lauer. I am a corporate controller here for Fairwave Coffee Collective. We have a series of coffee chains that we're sort of joining together into one big collective. And so we've been using BILL for a little over a year now and use several of their products, and definitely couldn't be happier. Yeah, over to Tucker maybe.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Jim. I'm Tucker. Great to meet y'all. I am the VP of Growth Marketing here at BILL. So my team focuses on both promotion and bringing new businesses into the BILL fold, so that Anna can take care of them on the customer community side. But also we have a big customer marketing component here on the growth team. And so we get to work with customers all the way through their life cycle from beginning to end on my crew. And so lots of overlap working with folks like Jim and Monique on the customer side and getting to see how people use BILL and all of our tools. It's great.
Thanks, Tucker. I'm Monique Camosi-Frazier. I currently lead Total Rewards at a company called 24 Hour Home Care based in Southern California. I also run a side business called Salt City HR Advisory, where I help people figure out HR issues and resolve those problems. I've primarily worked in the last 10 or 15 years with private equity and venture capital-backed companies, many of which have used BILL. So I'm familiar with the software and excited for the conversation today.
Well, that's wonderful. Great that we have all outlined not only our areas of expertise, but what we care about, what we're passionate about. And with that in mind, what I'd now like to do is launch our first of 4 polling questions. And our first polling question is the following. Here we go. We want to find out which financial processes have you automated. You're welcome to select all that apply from top to bottom. The choices are accounts payable, accounts receivable, expense management, FP&A, other, or none. We want to make sure you're able to respond to this poll, and you are welcome to select all choices that apply. Again, from top to bottom, accounts payable, accounts receivable, expense management, FP&A, other, or none. We do want to give attendees sufficient time to respond. And, you know, it is interesting. Sometimes the first choice that appears in a list of choices is the one that leads. And that is certainly the case here. But you know what? That's also true in our experience. Accounts payable clearly is the leader, but we also see expense management, and that reflects, I think, not only what Bill focuses on, but frankly, what I think a lot of organizations, not just finance teams, are focusing on. So we appreciate your responding. We're going to leave this poll up just for a few more seconds so that attendees have sufficient time to respond. But what is clear is that the top two priorities, at least based on what we're seeing from respondents to our first of four polls, top two priorities with regard to automation are indeed accounts payable and expense management. Not a surprise, but I should also point out we see accounts receivable and there are some people who've mentioned financial planning and analysis, that's FP&A, and then other areas as well. So with that in mind, what I would like to do is now begin our discussion. And what I'm going to do, Anna, is turn the floor over to you. We're going to talk about automation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Joe. It's good to see most of you are getting the financial, automation, into your organizations. But for those of you who selected none, that's okay. That's why we're here today. So what is financial automation and why is it so important? Well, financial automation helps us streamline and optimize financial and accounting processes using AI and automation. By integrating fintech tools, businesses can automate tasks like managing cash flow, tracking accounts receivable and payable, and bill processing, reducing manual effort and also reducing human error. So clearly, financial automation benefits the finance department, but did you know that it also can benefit multiple other departments within one company? Today, we'll hear from our amazing speakers on how automation has helped to transform not only their finance, but also their marketing and HR departments as well. So one of the key benefits of financial automation is improved decision-making for leadership. Real-time financial data empowers business leaders to make informed decisions based on accurate insights. Monique, as an HR leader, can you talk about how real-time financial data empowers HR departments to make informed decisions that align with a company's broader business strategy?
Absolutely. Real-time financial data is so valuable for HR because it helps give us the insights we need to make decisions that support the initiatives that we have that support the broader business objectives. I have 5 examples. One is workforce planning. That real-time data helps us forecast labor costs accurately and then align our staffing levels with the business needs. For example, if revenue or demand projects shift, HR can adjust hiring or workforce allocation very quickly rather than getting behind. On the front of compensation strategy, access to up-to-date financial metrics enables HR to design competitive but sustainable pay structures, which allows us to ensure that compensation aligns with company performance and market trends. The third one is return on investment for your talent. Our financial insights help HR identify the ROI of programs such as employee development, benefits, retention initiatives, which ensures our resources are being allocated to initiatives with the greatest impact on employee productivity and engagement. Fourth is cost management. Real-time data allows HR to track and control expenses related to payroll, benefits, and other functions. An example of this would be financial data can reveal opportunities to optimize your benefit offerings or renegotiate vendor contracts. And lastly, strategic alignment. By integrating our financial data with HR metrics like turnover rates, engagement scores, and talent acquisition costs, we can ensure that our strategies directly contribute to our broader goals like profitability or market expansion.
Absolutely. Thank you, Monique. I love that connection there. Financial automation also enhances collaboration across teams. Automation streamlines financial processes, reducing delays and improving collaboration between departments. So teams can easily track budgets, submit expense reports, and make it easy on everybody. Tucker, I'd love to hear from you. As a marketing leader, how has automation improved collaboration between your marketing team and the other departments that you work with?
Yeah, that's a great question. My team primarily works with 2 other departments in a really collaborative way on the financial side. Our finance and accounting team, obviously, and then our sales partners as well. We collaborate on different events and different motions. So having clear communication and collaboration with those 2 teams is super important to the success of the motions that we run. And I think if I were to distill it all down to kind of what the key is visibility for me in this cross-collaborative way. When we're talking to finance, we're always looking at the same numbers. by having things automated and having real-time data and visibility in there too. There's never the question of, hey, or is what I'm looking at current compared to what you and your team are using? How are you and your team using these different methods? When have you accrued things differently than how we may be accounting for them? So just kind of the unified source of truth becomes a major impact for us on the cross-collaborative nature. It just eliminates so much back and forth for us, so many questions, and it allows some self-sourcing of answers too, both from my direction and the other teams. Hey, how much budget have we used? Have we paid for this? So that visibility is definitely my favorite part when it comes to cross collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. And as someone else who also sits within marketing and works with your team, marketing, we're always spending all the dollars. So it's so good to have that visibility. Tucker, can you share a specific example of maybe how automation has simplified your team's budget? Maybe an expense reporting process example?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the teams that I work with focuses on our events motion. So that's both our field marketing and our trade show motion. And the thing about those is there's always travel going on. And so that means there's always incidentals, just things you aren't expecting. But also, there's baked in kind of finance elements like your per diems and paying for hotels and paying for Ubers back and forth to shows or hotels and things of that nature. And so I think this is probably one of the biggest areas of time saving for my team is automating the expense management side. By using our Bill Divvy cards, we're able to just swipe on the spot, make sure it's coming out of the right budget, make sure things are put into the right budgets, tracked the right ways, and snap receipts, have those receipts uploaded straight into the app immediately. So you're not creating and stacking a whole bunch of work for yourself that, hey, when you get back from this trip, you have to set aside 2 hours to deal with all of your expense management. It's all just done kind of as you go in real time, and you don't really notice that back and forth, which is really great. The other thing that I love about it when it comes to traveling and expense management is, we can just set up a budget for folks. And so they know, hey, this is what I'm within policy to spend, whether it's on food or whether, it may be taking a client or a potential customer out for an activity. It's kind of all right there in the system and just eliminates so many questions.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you so much for that example. Another benefit of automation is faster project execution for operations teams. Automated systems streamline financial processes, accelerating vendor payments, budget approvals, and expense reimbursements. Jim, I'd love to hear from you next. Can you talk about how automation has helped to speed up the approval process for your vendor payments and your expense reimbursements at Fairwave?
Yeah, so in general, when we first started looking into the bill solutions, we were very manual, right? So every single thing, whether it was cutting a check, whether it was entering an invoice, whether it was booking a credit card transaction, whatever it was, we were just doing it individually, transaction by transaction, right? And what we realized was, especially because, we're PE backed, we're constantly growing, growing through acquisition, basically, right? And what we realized is that it just wasn't scalable. And so whether it's the approval process for vendor payments or even approval process for raising people's limits on their credit cards, or we're able to save so much time, and we were able to take all the bill products that we are using, and we're still working on integrating the AR module, right? Like that's the next big step for us, is getting that going, because we were able to build a platform that could scale with us. And then instead of every time we make an acquisition, we got to hire another AP person, we got to hire another AR person, we need to hire another staff accountant to worry about credit cards and all this, we're able to absorb more and more, because by my estimates, just the AP module alone saved us from having to hire another AP person for at least 9 months. We just had to add one because we've added some acquisitions and we've added some more. It still has to be the automation still has to be has to have some oversight from people. It's not completely by itself yet, But I mean, we were able to save probably 8 or 9 months where we were at a point where we said, okay, either we do Bill.com or we hire another full-time AP person. We did Bill.com, and it wasn't until just recently that we're like, okay, it's got to happen. So the whole process of Bill.com and getting to Bill.com for us has been trying to build platforms that are scalable, so that the speed is what makes it scalable, right? Because if you have clunky systems, like if you're manually doing things, you can't scale that. And ultimately, I think we did an analysis where between staff accountant hours and hiring another AP person, just where we're at currently, we probably saved ourselves somewhere at $70,000 to $90,000 in salaries and having an additional person with benefits and all that fun stuff. So yeah, it's the AI is as much about the efficiency and the streamlining the team and being able to scale as it is the speed for us personally.
Yeah, that's incredible, Jim. It sounds like you guys have a lot of growth and scaling coming your way. And say again how much time that the automation has freed up so that you can focus on all the bigger initiatives you have.
Yeah, no, that's the huge thing is, we were at a point where we had to hire another AP person or do something else. And I'm sure that, looking at it, looks like there's 294 people in here right now. And I'm sure that we've all been dealing with finding sort of like an AP clerk is not as easy as it was even 2 or 3 years ago. Especially finding an AP clerk that's good and is actually affordable, that you don't have to go through like a third-party recruiter to pay way too much and pay a bonus and all that stuff too. So for us, it was, we're either going to wrap up in the salary and benefits and taxes and all that stuff, or we're going to have a solution that allows us to, basically get more mileage out of the people that we already have on staff. And that's the direction that we go. I just had a conversation with our PE group yesterday. They were asking about Bill.com for a few of their other businesses in their portfolio. And I basically just gave them look, you can hire a bunch of people to enter AP, and you can hire a bunch of people to enter in credit card transactions, or you can look at doing something like this. And, I think some of their other, I guess, brothers and sisters in the portfolio, so to speak, might be heading this direction too. So.
Great. That is incredible. So happy to hear. Joe, I'll hand it over to you for our next polling question. Thank you all for those amazing answers.
Yes, yes, indeed. And then, you've set us up for our second of 4 polling questions. And what we want to find out from attendees is the following. So this is the second of our 4 polling questions. We want to find out how has financial automation impacted teams? And you can, as with our first poll, select all that apply. So from top to bottom, the choices are significantly improved decision-making and forecasting for leaders, enhanced visibility and control, dramatically reduced manual work, improved cash flow management across all roles, other. And by the way, we do want to make sure that you have the option of answering this polling question. So we have included the choice, financial automation has had no positive impact. Again, we ask that attendees select from the choices that we're displaying here. And again, we want to find out the extent to which any of these has affected. You can select all that apply in response to the question, how has financial automation impacted your teams? Again, to recap, from top to bottom, the choices are significantly improved decision-making and forecasting for leaders, enhanced visibility and control, as well as dramatically reduced manual work, improved cash flow management across all roles, other, or financial management has no positive impact. What we can already see is that the top 2 priorities, dramatically reduced manual work is one, and the other is enhanced visibility and control. Those are the top 2. But a distant third, but a notable third, significantly improving decision-making and forecasting for leaders. So we do want to make sure attendees have sufficient time to respond to our second of 4 polling questions. And we are appreciative of your responses, because your responses will inform our discussion. Again, to recap, top 2 choices: dramatically reduced manual work, and then enhanced visibility and control. And so now what we're going to do, now that you've responded to our second polling question, what we want to do now is continue our discussion. And I'm going to turn the floor back to you, Anna, to talk about more benefits of financial automation across departments.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, it's so great to see that you all obviously agree with enhanced visibility, as Tucker shared, that also works for his teams, as well as reduced manual work, as Jim shared for his teams as well. These are all things obviously we can all agree on, but yes, there's much more benefit there to financial automation. For example, automation provides increased transparency for departmental budgets. It helps leaders avoid overspending and tracks how resources are being allocated for more efficient resource management. Tucker, can you share an example of how automation has helped marketing avoid overspending or identify potential cost-saving opportunities?
For sure. And I may end up sounding like a broken record by the end of this, but I think a lot of it comes back to the visibility for me and my team. Making sure we know where we're at against our spend targets, kind of our budget targets, is very important. But one thing that's been great is the actual budget controls that the systems we use have put in place also. So while everyone on my team has their own company card that they can use and spend as needed, we like creating that freedom and that flexibility. They also have specific budget caps that they cannot overspend, which makes it so, that's kind of the hard stop. It's locked down, and so that helps prevent overspending in a big way. But it comes back to the visibility and the controls, I think, because clarity is a kindness. So when someone knows exactly what their budget is and they know that it's bookended and they can't overspend that, I think we get the benefit of not going over budget, but also making sure that people are utilizing all of their budgets. For marketing, a lot of times we have the unique challenge that we want to spend as much as we can effectively, but stay within budget at the same time. So the visibility that we get with financial automation tool with Bill specifically is that we can see exactly how much that is. We know, okay, as the month goes on or as the quarter goes on, however you're setting up your team budgets, okay, I have X% left, I have X dollars left, and that gets smaller and smaller. And so that really helps make people feel like they're in the driver's seat. And I think Monique could probably really appreciate that from an HR standpoint. Like when people feel empowered and in control, like it's so much more refreshing. And so I love that, but it also is a business benefit outside of a better employee experience. You just aren't going over budget with those budget caps and the visibility. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. Spending smarter, one might say. Another, I get to talk to a lot of our Bill customers. And one thing I always find so fascinating, and I'd love to hear how it's helped your teams as well, is giving those employees a feel of accountability, like they get to make a decision and have, that sense of ownership when it comes to budget. So how has increased budget transparency kind of improved that for your team?
I can take this one. I read some research recently that showed that people are most motivated at work, not necessarily by money, but by the opportunity to have purpose, mastery, and autonomy. And so that autonomy piece, the ability to have discretion over spending and knowing where the parameters are and just having that clarity to be able to manage how you spend the dollars that you're allocated by the business, I just think is really important. Nobody wants to be nickel and dimed or micromanaged in this capacity. And these tools really allow people to utilize and benefit from that feeling of autonomy, which I think is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And Monique, that's a great segue over to you. Automation also reduces the administrative burden on HR and operations by automating all of that. Can you talk about how automation has reduced the time HR spends on administrative tasks like payroll so you can spend more time on building that great workplace?
Absolutely. Some of those manual processes it eliminates in payroll or like calculating hours and tax withholdings and benefits. And sometimes there's changes to the employee bonus payments and different things that you can manage more in a more automated way, which not only saves a ton of time, but allows HR to get out of the tactical and get more into the strategic, focusing on things like improving workplace culture. Rather than spending hours and hours processing payroll, we can focus on leadership development programs or employee engagement surveys or mining the data of our benefits programs to provide better offerings. And I think that employees benefit when we're able to focus on those more strategic initiatives and not just be kind of the backseat order taker transactional HR function. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Monique. Financial automation also enables stronger compliance and reduced risk for legal and compliance teams. It ensures financial processes adhere to regulations, benefiting legal and compliance teams with an auditable, secure, and consistent transaction trail. Jim, I'd love to hear from you. How has automation improved your team's ability to maintain compliance with your financial regulations?
So, like a lot of people here, I get to go through. Obviously we're all on GAAP, but then we also, for debt service, debt covenants reasons, whatever you want to call it, get to go through my annual audit every year. So basically, everything that we do through the entire year gets held under a microscope. And both on the, especially with the AP side, because, they're always wanting to, price test inventory items or double check expenses over certain amounts, or even, they'll want copies of all of our legal bills, and they'll want copies of any transaction expenses that went through AP, right? Same with the credit card side is, they're constantly asking us, okay, we need these, 15 payment receipts to make sure that you actually paid these and you didn't just capitalize them for, I guess fraud is the best way to put it. So, in a lot of ways, having this sort of, I just had this conversation with the PE group yesterday, and, I said, one of the beauties of these tools is that we basically have all of our receipts and all of our invoices warehoused, and we can easily, quickly grab them for basically any reason. I think I even sent them a screenshot, and I said, 2 years ago when we would have credit cards, which I would say our credit card transactions, because of the growth and the number of users has probably tripled in the last 2 years, I would spend, or my team would spend, I would say probably 20 hours just sending emails and tracking people down saying, hey, we need your credit card receipts, we need your credit card receipts, we need your credit card receipts. And now, we don't have to do that, and yet we're getting all of them. And our rate of getting them is much higher through spend and expense than it ever was when we were immediately doing it, because now it's putting the I think one of you had alluded a minute ago to, sort of puts that control and that responsibility on the person themselves. And so whereas when it was, I have to scan it and then I have to send it over to this person, now it's it's their job, it's part of their job now because it's on their phone, and I'm a big believer in that. So that's been the biggest thing, is just the documentation and making sure we have everything. And again, when the auditors call, instead of saving the invoices on a shared drive and then trying to filter through them and try to find them or look into the AP email addresses or however we want to do it, we just go right to the transaction. And it's been a minute since I've looked at it, but I'm pretty sure we're in NetSuite, and I'm pretty sure I can click a link in NetSuite and it'll take me to that transaction, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've had to do it, but again, we didn't have that tool a year and a half ago. So that's been a big help in the audit, and it definitely streamlined our 2023 audit. I'm looking forward to the 24 audit already.
Jim, I'm having flashbacks to days when I had to help people chase down receipts from my team or get questions, emails or Slacks that are, hey, you forgot to categorize this transaction from 9 months ago. Do you remember what you bought at such and such place for such and such dollars? And just feeling like a deer in the headlights, not having any idea because I didn't do it at the time, is what nightmares are made of.
Sorry to bring up a sore subject. Yeah, we definitely had that, and I'm sure that everyone on here has run into that. And I can't tell you how many times I basically would have to tell people that we're execs. And at the time, a few years ago, I wasn't the controller, I was a staff accountant or a senior staff accountant or whatever you want to call it. And the number of times I'd have to go to execs and be like, look, if you don't start getting me receipts, we're going to cut off your card, and you're just going to have to run it through personal and we'll reimburse you. And even then, they'd get a little better, and then, they'd get slack. With this, we can send them an email every day if we want to that they haven't submitted their credit card receipt. And some of them we do.
Yeah.
I love that. Yes, I think we've all had that moment where I know I used to work for a company where I had the one credit card to rule them all. And it was scary trying to get everybody's receipts. And you never want finance sending you that email saying you're behind. So I'm glad.
And the other tricky thing is when you have one card for a department, not only is it hard to get to receipts, but it's hard to know who made the purchase, because the number is just floating around everywhere. So everyone having a card where you can really tie those transactions to individuals is a huge, huge thing that we've made that transition at several companies, and it just makes everybody's life so much easier.
Yeah, and I would throw out coupling on that. That's one of the best things about the spend and expenses. It's so easy to create like a virtual card.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we have people that, they need a card once, right? Or they're buying, they're paying for one thing online, so we just make them a virtual card, give them a $200 monthly limit. And then instead of them even having to worry about it, especially if it's a reoccurring charge, like it's a utility, like an internet charge, right? We know exactly what that is. We're not going to need the receipt for that every month. We just create one card that covers that one transaction. And then it's just thinking through every month, and it's getting processed and everyone's tracking it. I mean, you don't even have to think about it at that point, right?
Right.
So it's not as hard as where, like with our old credit card program, it was like, we got to get this person a credit card. We got to order it for an individual, and we need all this information. And it's like, we can actually give out less cards to individuals by just taking care of their needs with a virtual card. And I think that's a huge thing, to not have a card for like a reoccurring transaction tied to an individual, because you never know, that person could leave. And when they leave, everyone's going, does anyone know how to change this? Does anyone know where this is? It's like, no, we've got it from the beginning. So it's pretty cool.
And this is the kind of stuff that I think really can drive retention too. Everyone's worked somewhere where this kind of stuff was just so hard. Like that the administrative part of your job takes you away from the strategic part of your job. And when these things are smooth, I don't know. I've had some great experiences where I've walked into an organization. It was like, what a breath of fresh air. This is easy, because sometimes it can be so hard.
Completely agree. It can definitely be a game changer. I wanted to move on to, we talked about the auditing and legal compliance side of things. Another benefit is that improved vendor and partner relationship. Automated accounts payable processes reduce the late payments and ensure faster payments and smoother transactions, leading to better relationships with vendors and partners, which in the end makes everybody happy. Jim, I'm sure in your line of work, you have a lot of different vendors that you have to work with. How has the automation process improved the accuracy and timeliness of your vendor payments? And can you share an example of that?
Yeah, so for us, a lot of it's been, we've trained a lot of our vendors to just send them directly, to that email. And I would say, because we've taken sort of that likelihood of human error, meaning someone going into an email address, going through email by email, looking for a PDF or they'll embed them sometimes in an email. Because we've gotten rid of that, I mean, we don't hardly miss any, and more often than not, we're finding, whereas we used to have, I'd say every week or two we might have a vendor, hey, you didn't pay this invoice when you made your payment. It's like, oh, sorry about that. We go back through and we realize, it was buried somehow, or we missed that email, or we just didn't see it. Maybe, I don't know. These days, more often than not, if a vendor is reaching out to us and saying, hey, you didn't pay us for this invoice, we go back through, we look through our emails, but then we also look through bill.com, and more often than not, they just didn't send it to us, right? And that does happen from time to time. We're small craft coffee companies, so some of the companies that we are dealing with are much smaller than us, and they're, one or two people working out of a little space or whatever, right? So sometimes they just don't invoice us, and that does happen. But especially with like the big guys, our box suppliers, coffee suppliers, all those, the only hiccup on that is, since we don't have the ability to bill the POs yet, that's the one piece that we don't run through like the AP module. But we get a lot of invoices directly to the cafes, and that has, like I said, I don't remember the last time we missed one through Bill.com, whereas I remember before Bill.com, we were missing quite a few on a regular basis.
Good. I'm so happy to hear that Bill has helped you not miss the mark when it comes to paying those vendors. I know those relationships can be very important. Joe, I will send it back over to you. We have our next poll question, I believe.
We sure do. And what we want to find out now is, we've asked questions about the impact of financial automation and what processes attendees want to automate. Now we want to find out from attendees which departments in your company are currently using financial automation. As with our first two polling questions, we do invite you to select a choice or choices that apply. You can simply select the choice or choices that correspond to your answer. No need to click on a submit button because there is no submit button. And from top to bottom, the choices in response to this question, which departments in your company are currently using financial automation, and I would remind attendees you can select all choices that apply. From top to bottom, the choices are finance, accounting, operations, at least one other department not listed above, or none. I promise we will revisit this question later on, but in the meantime, why don't we go ahead and continue our discussion. And we do have a lot more to discuss. In particular, what we want to talk about is financial automation benefiting external partners in addition to teams within an organization. And with that in mind, Anna, I'm going to turn the floor back over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Joe. So, automating our finances doesn't just, as Joe said, benefit us internally. Financial automation also benefits our external partners, such as the auditors, we mentioned earlier, as well as our suppliers. When it comes to audits, with the help of automation, all your invoices, comments, approvals, payments are all in one place, providing that clear transaction history. Automated systems create detailed audit trails documenting every step of a financial transaction. They're clearly timestamped and logged for data accuracy, which provides transparency and accountability. Automation also provides a read-only access to allow oversight from internal and external stakeholders. Jim, while we left off with you last time, I'd love to ask you again, put you back in the hot seat. How's automation improved the efficiency and accuracy of that external audits? I know you kind of talked about how it helps on the internal side as well.
So this will be new for us because my plan is, we're going into the 2024 audit, so we're going to try to make use of that read-only access. I accidentally gave it to someone that was on my team the other day, and they were like, "Hey, I can't do anything." I was like, "Oh, because I gave you the audit role." So we're working towards that with our auditors this year to get them that audit view-only access. So we're going to see how that goes because we've never opened up any of our systems like that to the auditors. So I'm really excited about that. So I can mostly speak to how we internally audit, and whether it's NetSuite or it's Bill.com, having those very defined audit trails where we can go through and find when it happened, why it happened, who did it, tying all of those things together, who approved it, whose budget it came out of, wherever you want to go with that. I use that all the time in my own internal review because I can tell you 99% of the time whenever I'm going through month over month results, first thing I do is go, okay, who did this? Why did it happen? And who do I need to ask? Like, hey, this looks a little off, or hey, do you have the support? Or hey, I'm looking at this, I'm seeing that, the picture was, instead of an invoice, they actually wrote out like a lost receipt, like we got to find this receipt, it's material, right? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we use all of the back end stuff to do internal review and internal audit because, again, we've got to be, the goal is 0 audit entries, right? I think that's the goal for everybody. We had 4 last year. We went down from the year before I started, we had put 46 audit entries, and then I took over and we got down to 4 the next year. So my goal is 0. And the only way we're going to do that is if we're internally auditing ourselves consistently. So yeah, giving that external audit function, I'm a little nervous about it, but I'm really excited to see how it goes with the CBIZ audit. So we'll see.
That sounds great, Jim. I just want, before we continue our conversation, I just want to reveal, by the way, how attendees have responded to our third poll, then we'll continue our discussion. And as we can see here, clearly a very significant percentage, plurality indicating that accounting using automation, and then we also see that finance, not a huge surprise. So very, finance and accounting using financial automation, which makes sense. So just wanted to reveal how attendees responded to our third of 4 polling questions. And what we're going to do very shortly is continue our discussion. And so back to you, Anna and Jim.
Anna, we need to get more marketers using financial automation. Clearly, I need to start selling these benefits a little bit more.
I know, gosh. Are we not convincing them that everyone deserves financial automation here?
We will.
We will by the end of this. Yeah, we will. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jim. And just know we'll be cheering you on during audit season. Hopefully, Bill's in your corner. So
I appreciate it.
Fantastic. Moving on, so for our suppliers, automation also provides easier and more flexible payments, accommodating suppliers' payment preferences, improved communication and transparency by allowing suppliers to log into their online portal, see the status of their invoices, and their payments. Suppliers can also manage their own banking information, which enhances security and fraud prevention on both sides. Tucker, I'd love to hear, how has automation improved the visibility control over your spending?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's kind of funny when we got to this benefits to external partners slide, and Jim went the audit direction, and my brain obviously went straight to like vendors and suppliers, which just shows to some very different perspectives. I think you gave a great overview. I think for me, one of the things that I really love about the systems that we use is the ability to give choice to the vendors and have choice for my team. So there's all kinds of different payment options available in the market. And if we just look at some of the basics, right? Credit cards, wires, ACH, or paper checks, they all have different benefits and they all serve different purposes. And even paper checks today, where we have people moving away from those in a lot of circumstances, there's still very viable reasons to use those with certain suppliers, and certain vendors really like getting those paper checks. Or we have customers that use Bill for the ability to make sure you're getting this dual verification on those for added security. And so the ability to have choice through all of your different payment options is super valuable to me and my team. From our side, sometimes it's really important that we need to get something paid immediately to lock down, say, going back to my example earlier, events and trade shows, those can be really competitive to get opportunities to present at trade shows or to have a booth. And so being able to jump on and just say, hey, give me a link, I'll swipe a card and get that taken care of immediately is super important. But then some vendors definitely prefer, hey, like let's stay away from any fees. Speed's not super important here, and we can do an ACH at your convenience. And so I love that benefit. You also called out the ability for vendors to be able to jump into the portal and update banking information and change payment preferences. That's super nice as well, because then we're not even eliminating the compliance standpoint and passing banking information back and forth through emails or wherever some people may be doing it, text messages. One, we never have to touch it. But two, it's just convenient also. They can just log in, take care of it on their own. They don't have to reach out to us, do a little back and forth dance, and then get it updated, hope that it's updated, make sure that the next time a payment comes out or is delivered, it goes to the right place. They just know that it's all taken care of. They've got visibility into that, and I think that really helps my team, and I think it gives a really good vendor experience. And then again, just the real time thing, kind of beating that one in is you can see it as soon as it's done. You kind of know it's taken care of, and you don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Monique, do you have anything that you would like to contribute to either of these, whether on the auditor side or the supplier side?
I feel like I'm looking at it from a totally different perspective, which is making sure that you're identifying the right vendors that you need, that they're right sized for your organization, that you've thought through what processes already exist and what are you trying to solve for before you implement something that just doesn't really meet the needs of your business where you are. So just having that really clear RFP process, making sure you're thinking through everything. And then secondly, once you're in that relationship with whatever vendor you choose, really having high expectations on the account managers and the implementation team, and just implementing new software and training your internal teams on new software can be such a headache if you haven't thought through all of these things. And you don't want to create workaround processes outside the system that don't actually meet your needs, or not have the team available to you to help you maximize your investment in these tools. So that's kind of how I look at it from an employee experience perspective and from a functionality perspective, a process perspective. Just think about some of these things as you're going into making these decisions.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Joe, I will turn it over to you for our next poll question, our last one, I think.
Indeed. And what we're going to do is we're going to, in just a moment, display our fourth and, as you said, final polling question. And then we're going to summarize. And then I think we have time for maybe one question and a couple of other things to cover. But first, we want to find out what your company aims to achieve as a result of implementing financial automation. You can feel free to select all that apply. Just select the choice or choices that correspond to your answer. No need to click on a submit button. From top to bottom, reduced errors and delays, increased productivity, improved financial reporting, enhanced decision-making, other, or if your company does not intend to implement financial automation. We do want to make sure attendees can answer this question. This is the fourth of 4 polling questions. And we want to make sure attendees have sufficient time to respond. As we can already see, the two top 3 priorities, increased productivity, close second, and reduced errors and delays. And then a not too distant third, improved financial reporting. And then even not too distant fourth from that, enhanced decision making. So clearly productivity and reduced errors and delays. And keep in mind, you can select all that apply, and sometimes these choices overlap. Greater productivity results from fewer errors and delays. So we do appreciate your responding to our fourth polling question. Anna, I want to give you the opportunity to summarize what we've just discussed. Then we'll have time for some at least one question from an attendee, and then we have a couple of other things to cover. But first, back to you, Anna, to summarize.
Thank you so much. And I hope you all find that you can, achieve those things when you implement financial automation. We've heard some amazing things this afternoon, so let's bring it all back together and recap some of the benefits of how financial automation will truly impact your entire organization. It streamlines finance teams and their operations. Automation empowers other departments with improved processes and efficiency. Benefits employees with faster reimbursements. Easily provides info for audits without all that manual work. And finally, it strengthens your supplier relationships by offering flexible payments, better communication, and enhanced security. Thank you all so much. Before we go to the last question from our audience, I wanted to see if our amazing panel had anything else that they wanted to add that maybe we didn't cover, or that you wanted to, put as a last exclamation of all the great things you guys have shared.
I'll jump in if we need to. It's tricky to get me to not. one thing that really stood out to me actually in this recap, Anna, we didn't talk about it much, but you called out the employee benefit of kind of eliminating or improving the reimbursement process. I think that Jim spoke to this or alluded to this a little bit. And I think that eliminating the reimbursement process wherever possible is the goal for me. Like, I don't ever want anyone submitting a reimbursement to me because, hey, if we can have a little bit of planning and I can create a virtual card for you, or I can put you into a budget in advance, then we don't have to do that. You don't have to be floating that cost for the company. You don't have to, be balancing different things on your personal cards. Like, let's just take that out of the picture. And again, to reference Monique, like, put the power back in the employee's hands. So down with reimbursements.
Well, and I'd couple on that too, at least in my experience, what I've seen is, we always give cards first and foremost to the people that can easily, afford something and then wait to get the reimbursement.
Yep.
And then a lot of times it's like, oh, you're a, lower level, entry level, whatever, right? You're like, just submit an expense reimbursement. And generally those are the people that are like, well, I can't spend, an extra $60 and wait 3 weeks to get reimbursed, right? And I do feel like with Bill.com, because you can put the controls in place, and you can put the limits in place, and you can put what they spend it on. You have all these tools in your hand where I don't worry about, like, oh yeah, I'll get you a card, no big deal, and you can take it on your trip, and then when you get back, we'll shred it and we're done with it, right? And so I just wanted to throw that out there, that it's so easy to feel confident in giving someone that, maybe if you were going with like an Amex card or something, you'd be like, I don't know if I want to get this person an Amex, right? Because you have every single step that you can just put in place.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, no more reimbursements. I'm there with you.
Love it.
Fantastic. Joe, do we have time for one question?
We do. Before we pose the question, just a couple of things, or address the question. We have about 5 minutes left. We have another webinar coming up very, very soon. So just a couple of things. If you're interested, attendees, you can scan this QR code, or there's also a link on the right under the docs section if you want to request a personalized demo with Bill. With regard to quick question, we do have about 4 minutes left. Quick question for you, Jim, when we eliminate expense reports and assign a budget, have you found that and I grant that this is a loaded question, but Jim, when we eliminate expense reports, have you found that you spend less time having to even think about spend and expense management, because much of this process reflects pre-existing budgets rather than the need to find out after the fact? So quick question for you, Jim.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one of the things that I just did the last few weeks was I've sort of groomed a couple of my senior accountants to start taking over more and more of these responsibilities, right? And we sort of set it and forget it with people's budgets. And like, yeah, we have a few people that it's merch season, right? So we're buying copy merch, and so our one of our purchasing managers had to order a lot more merch than normal. So they put in their requests or whatever, but I'd say 90% of the people that have a Bill.com card through us, we literally, it's just, okay, look, here's the deal. You've got $1,000 a month. That's what you can spend. If you need more, you reach out, tell us why. If you need less, that's fine too. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to comb over and go, oh, well, this person technically should have only spent this, because we've got it set so that if they hit their limit, the card just gets rejected, right? That might be a little cutthroat for some people, but for me, I'm all about that accountability, and so it works really well for us. And we haven't gotten any pushback either, because like you said, they don't have to sit down and put together a big expense report packet and write down why and do all that. It's just right at their phone. They just do it while they're using the card. Super easy.
Before we conclude, just want to launch a feedback survey, and we really appreciate your time. We hope you enjoy the next sessions during this day, and we hope you enjoy our overall event. Thank you again, and we'll see you soon.